I am a survivor. Some powerful words. Well, that's the title of Naeemah Simons' latest book. She's an author and auxiliary worker and appears to have lots of life experience with people that have lots of issues and challenges, as I like calling it, in life. The thing that stands out for me is to talk to people that can inspire you to become who you need to become right after the break. Welcome back. I'm talking to Naeemah Simons about her latest book, I Am a Survivor. There's a story of inspiration. Naeemah, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Fine, thank you.
Now, I know it's been a long journey for you to try and get hold of me and finally come onto the program. And I see you busy on Facebook. And finally, we sort of making contact on a very inspiring story. And that's, you've got a journey and a story. And some of it comes out in this book. I don't fully believe that all the incidences that I read in here has nothing to do with incidences in your life. But we're going to talk about that. Why?
Okay, for me, it's non-fiction, right? It's not about me. 10% is about me.
But it has to be built on sound things in your life. Because people and authors write about things that might have been inspired somewhere in their lives.
It's about emotions. I went through different and a lot of emotions, depressions in my life. The counseling that I'm actually doing, sometimes they actually remind me of certain things that I went through in my life that I kind of dealt with already. And for me, that kind of helped me to actually write what I actually did. And that is what I'm saying. For me, I didn't want, it was no reflection on me. As I said, I do have abuse in my life, and I had in my life, but I've learned to actually deal with a lot of abuse within my life now. And
did you ever find, or do you find, that the book itself was a therapeutic outlet for you to release some of the steam that was built up in your private life? Maybe writing the book released some of that steam through the writing.
Yes, it did. At the beginning, when I went through my emotion abuse, my depression, I used to go a lot to the beach. I love going to the beach. But for me, sitting on that rocks and just listening to that wave, sit against the rocks, closing my eyes, feeling that breeze, having my book, having my page, my pen, and just writing whatever I was feeling. Writing my abuse that I've been going through, writing about my children, writing about life, writing whatever I thought was. I just threw it up and I threw it into the deep sea. And as that waves was taking it away, I felt a lot of my depression exhaled. And you know, a funny feeling. It's such a beautiful feeling of relief. And for me, it was like, I felt like a new woman.
I can imagine doing something like that, because I think that when people have problems, I know that one technique is to, and you feel overwhelmed sometimes, is to write all this down on a piece of paper and put that in perspective. And I don't think we do a lot of that. So I think the fact that you've gone to the beach and sort of threw that in the ocean, I think that it really unblocks something mentally, that you have thrown part of your problems away. Just an understanding.
And you know, just walking on the beach, feeling that sand between your toes and that water, sometimes that coldness, it feels good. You know, like my granny used to tell me, you know, elements, if you sit in that water, you don't need to swim. You just need to sit. And that elements of how that water comes to you and the way it affects you. And if you got a sore, that water is going to heal it. And for me, that was my healing of depression. And I felt good. And as I stepped back, as that waves went, I shouted. Because I felt relief, I felt new. I shouted so loud. People was looking at me, thinking, what is going on with this woman? This woman going off her rockers. But for me, it's like, if you can feel what I'm feeling at this moment, I think you'll do the same.
It's freedom, I suppose. It's being released. It's being set free.
You know, if you must do that, if anybody should do that, they will actually understand how that feeling actually feels. You know, of being a newborn baby or being a new woman, and that is what it actually did to me. And
do you believe you're a survivor?
Well, in my past, I didn't believe that. I doubted myself a lot.
You're a survivor now?
I believe I'm a survivor.
And you say that this book is not about your story, it's called I Am a Survivor. so I'm very loath to believe that part of this is a manifestation of what has happened in your life.
For me, the reason why I say I'm a survivor, because I'm dealing with my problems on a positive way. And that is what I do when I do motivational speaking. That is what I actually speak to people about. I try to make them feel positive about themselves so that they can become a survivor. And that is why my title is I Am a Survivor. It's not about me. It's about Mariam, that girl that's in the book, that survived all of these things.
You know, getting into the book, and I just want to tell our viewers there's something very interesting. So generally when I get to review books, I get these very thick books that are sent to me by publishers and authors, and they're really thick, and I don't always go through all of them because of time constraints and that sort of thing. But generally when you come to the end of a book, there are a couple of stories and there are a couple of life lessons in each one of them. There's a story, and most of the time it's a life lesson, either taught in a way that was very to the point or in a very positive way. Be that as it may, this particular booklet is, I think it's fairly short when it comes to when you talk about novels and that sort of thing, 55 pages. But it makes an interesting read, and I think we're in that time today with social media and all kinds of things and influences that people have and access to electronic media. People have become lazy to read long novels. They would prefer watching something audio-visual more than anything else. But this is an interesting quick read with a couple of life lessons. What's those life lessons that you wanted people to get out of this?
I work with troubled youth, and they tend to see life differently. You know,
in which way?
Abuse. You know, coming from the Cape Flats where I live, abuse, I would feel sometimes is for them, it's part of life, which is not. For them, as I'm sitting with the troubled youth and I'm talking to them, doing group counseling with them, and I speak to them about these things, they tend to look at it in a different way, a different outlook on life. Because raping someone, it's, you know, there's a lot of them that actually make fun of that, but it's not a fun thing. It's, you know, it's hurting that person. It's not just hurting that person, it's taking away that person's innocence. And if I speak in depth, as my book is, if I speak in depth of the role plays of what that girl went through when she has been raped or any other abuse that she actually endured, they tend to focus on the point of, so that is how she actually felt, or that is how that person actually feels when things like that do happen. What does depression actually do to that person? What does rape actually do to that person?
So the story of the violation itself.
Exactly.
And the subsequent emotions that come with all of that.
Yes. People tend to now, because my book go in depth of what an abuse is and in depth of how the emotions is destroyed, how their life is destroyed, how do they feel. You know?
Do you think that Miriam's story in the book is a story that any woman out there or South African out there that might have traveled a very similar journey might be able to travel along with Miriam?
Yes.
In the hope of coming out as a survivor?
Yes, absolutely.
So you want to motivate people through the story of Miriam?
Yes,
as
I
a,
do.
to survive?
Yes, I do. You know, there was people that actually read my book, whether it was youth or whether it's mature people. They actually came to me and they actually told me how they actually felt about reading the book. There's a couple of scenarios. I'll take the one scenario where this one lady, she went through some similar abuse that she actually read, and she became so attached by reading this book that she actually wanted to get into the book and said, Mariam, open up your eyes so that you can actually see what is happening. Because as she is actually seeing what is going to happen, sometimes if you are stuck in that emotion or that abuse, you don't tend to focus further because you are in a negative room. And sometimes someone looking on the outside and looking inside, that is how that person felt. And she cried because she knew what Mariam is going to go through now. And that's one scenario, and that's from a mature woman. On the youth generation, for them it's more again, they actually now read the part of the rape, the impact of a boy, and they actually could feel, you know, that is how it was for that child. It's not a nice feeling. And for the girl to read it, is that how it actually feels? Is that the lies that comes afterwards and never been dealt with? You know, what is the next option? Not telling your mom, you can't tell her, you can't tell your parents, you can't tell surroundings, they look at you differently. If sometimes when you are a rape victim, they look at you and they judge you. And she was too young to be judged. She didn't know, she was innocent, she didn't know what was going on in her life. The next thing that happens, and this is what also, not just Cape Flats, but right through the world, what is the next thing they go to? They go to drugs. They go to booze. They go to nightclubs, you know? And for them, it's a type of relief. But it's a relief for that couple of hours, and it's back to reality. And that is what I actually teach the youth. Why are you going to smoke that pipe? It's going to be relief for what, a couple of hours? Then you're going to be super hungry when you stand up. You're back in reality. So why go back? And that's the question I leave to them. Why go back to that? And for me, I usually like going in depth. That is why my book goes in depth. I go in depth. But I always leave that answer for that person to decide. It's not for me to decide.
So many people have this idea that, like, we know a lot of stories and things happen, and we read a lot of things in life, and we see things in what we do. But it takes a very definitive and bold step to decide to pen that and create a publication. What defined you creating the publication? Because we all know these stories. For example, someone walks into my office and tells me their life story, but it's not very, I would say the chances of me sitting down and penning something and saying I want to put the story out there might be very slim. So what made you decide to take the story and write a publication around that?
Because people, for me, I feel that people is not dealing with their problems. People are speaking about their problems, but they're not dealing with it.
Well, when you say dealing, are you referring to having an actual, tangible outcome in terms of how you're going to solve the problem?
Yes. Reason being, counseling. Counseling is one of it, yes. Counseling is what you take out of it. Sometimes I can go for counseling. Anybody can come to counseling for me. But what that person's going to take home with them, that's what they are going to take home with. I cannot change that person's mind, but I can change that person's mindset. And that is what I try to do. You know, taking a step further, telling them what can happen or what cannot happen. And as I said now, a lot of people tend to go through abuse, but they never talk about it. And if they do talk about it, they're going to feel, or they feel that they're going to be judged. And that is why I wrote that. is so that people can see what that lady had to go through her whole life, not feeling that she might be judged. And she didn't want to be judged. She wanted to carry on with her life. But you see, this, as they see the backpack, they have the negative backpack and they threw it in the backpack. More negative, on top of more problems. That backpack became heavy. And that was her life.
I think that people that are by nature negative or have become negative in their life because of certain life circumstances and experiences, most of the time, in my understanding, go through the negative cognitive triad. And so we have three angles of negativity, and the one is that I am a failure as aspect one. So everything I do will be a failure. So everything I touch and do is a failure. And therefore everything else that I do in the future will be a failure. So we start a perpetual cycle of negativity and failures, one on top of the other one.
Absolutely.
But which is all a result of a mindset and a mind shift. And if one is able to change that, things can get better. So you're in a perpetual cycle of negativity. And if only you can stop the bleed and move in the other direction, then things might be different. You appear to be an advocate and have some level of advocacy for being positive. You want to tell us a bit about that? Because I see some of that coming out, and I realize that the cover of the book obviously meant that you were trying to indicate depression.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, coming back to what your question was, before I'm going to do that, my book, as you can see, it's a black cover. That is the cocoon. For me, it represents you in a black room. You went through an abuse, and more abuse and more abuse. You speak into negativity. As you said, you believe that you are negative. You are in this negative room. You were surrounded with negative people. The cocoon, once that cocoon goes open, there is positivity. And the positivity is my butterfly that's on there. And my butterfly is like looking for that key of that negativity, opening up that door, because there's positivity outside on the other side. You need to do that. And the only way that you can actually do that is if you can believe in yourself. Once you can believe in yourself, that positivity is going to be out there. That's one breakthrough. There's a lot of others that goes with that.
Do you not think that taking ownership of your day, your life, and your outcomes in life is part of this mission? Do you not think that people need to take ownership and say that although I come into a workspace and maybe somebody's negative for the day, that you need to take ownership of your own journey so that you can have a positive life and outcome? I think many times, in my understanding and view, people are beriddled by the idea that the economy is dropping, job rate is down, this is happening and that's happening, government is stealing, all kinds of things, so I might as well be part of the whole bang lot and go down with the ship. But we need to take ownership. It's time that we stand up and say, I'm in charge of my own journey. Why is it that someone out there that is living in the same time like me, born in the same month and the same day, is living a happy-go-lucky life, doing well financially and all kinds of things, but I want to sit here and wallow away in the darkness? So I think we need to take ownership somewhere too.
Yes, you are absolutely right. That is why, as I mentioned now, it starts actually with you. If you believe that there's going to be a day of judgment, you believe that you are going to be accountable for your actions when you pass on, then you should make a plan today to make a better tomorrow. And by doing that, throw away that depression backpack. Get a glitter bag. Glitter bag, put it in all the positivity. Even if it's negativity, you tried your best. And take off that mask one at a time, one day at a time. You take off that mask. Mask of depression, mask of abuse, and so forth and so forth. Once you take all of those things off, you tend to believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you're going to believe that tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day. You're going to believe that whatever I'm going to do is positive. Even if it's a negativity that's going to come through your life, you're going to have that positive outlook in life. And you're going to feel good. You're going to feel blessed. And that is what makes me happy. I'm like that every day. People tend to ask me, don't you have problems? I said, yes, I do. But you don't look like you got problems. I said, because I deal with my problems. You have to deal with it and I carry on.
You know, the funny thing is, Naeemah, that if you think about this properly, do you know that from the day that we're born, the minute you solve one problem in your life, and anybody, no matter who you are, whether you are Donald Trump sitting there outside the White House, I heard he doesn't actually want to move into the White House. He wants to stay in his New York flat. But be that as it may, whether you are Donald Trump sitting on billions, or whether you are the person sitting on the corner of the side street that doesn't have a roof over your head, you have problems. So the minute you solve one problem, the next one will come. And the minute you solve that one, the next one will come. And sometimes I try to delay solving my problem so that the next one doesn't come. But the point is that it's life's condition, it's the human condition, it's part of being on earth, and it's part of being a human being, and that's to have problems. What might be different is how do you view these things and how does it impact on your life?
I would say challenges. I endure challenges my whole life. And I'll be honest with you, there was a time in my life when I actually didn't believe anymore. I didn't believe there was a creator. Because why would our creator put me through challenges like this? I was putting all my challenges into this one box. I'm not dealing with it. So it was my fault for not dealing with my problems. I just put in all my problems in one box. Until one day, as I was counseling people, you know, not just random people. Sometimes people come to you. It's so nice to speak to a stranger and speak to a problem because they don't know you from Adam, and I like that. But as I said now, they just came to me and I spoke to them. And for me it was, this is how am I supposed to deal with it? I need to deal with a problem. And by dealing with my problem, no matter what choice I made, whether it was positive, whether it was negative, whether my outcome was shining and I was smiling, or whether my outcome was crying, it was my choice. And I carry on by doing that. I started to love myself more. You know what, Faizal? I actually pray for challenges nowadays because I feel that the more challenges I endure, the more close I become to Allah.
And it's also life experiences. So that it's like in life that if you are working for a particular company and you know what, and you don't have the challenges within the workspace, your experience level in the job is not going to be where it needs to be. The more experience you have is based on the challenges in the job that you have. And likewise, the more challenges you have in your life, the more experienced a human being you are, and the more you'd be able to deal with things. We've reached the end of the show, Naeemah. I want to tell our viewers to go for the book, to order the book. It's a short read, but at the same time, I think there's some inspiring tale to be told and something that can be left behind in the mind that can change one from being, it's a flick of a switch sometimes, just going from negativity to positivity. And then also, just as a last point, I also think that one is to surround yourself with people that are positive and not negative. Thank you for coming into the show.
Thank you so much.
Well, the details are on the screen to get a copy. You can also call the Deen TV offices, 021 2602, to order your copy. It's not that expensive. We'll have the details on screen. I did a saying last week that said that negative people tend to find a problem for all solutions. They find a problem for all solutions. Think about that. Until next time, goodbye.